NERDSoul.
Why are you a black man in love? Hey y'all. Thank you once again for joining us for Black Together or Walk in Her Shoes, where you have just two Black women giving their perspectives on our experience. We want to thank NERDSoul for allowing us to be on his platform. And we ask that you check him out on ThatNERDSoul.com. On Tuesdays, you can check him out along with me, Lady Lisa, for the original Black Together. On Wednesdays, he'll be with the Four Horsemen on Beats Vibes Life. And once again, with me on Fridays for Lounging. That again is on ThatNERDSoul.com. But I am not here by myself. I am here with my partner in crime, Miss Kim, aka Lady Buddaphlai.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.
All right. So, what's in our shoebox today?
Today we have a white Shimano cycling shoe with the 3 Velcro straps for all of the potential backpedaling we're going to see, because today we are talking about President and Vice President-elect Biden and Harris and what Black America can expect and should demand out of this administration.
Buckle up, y'all. Buckle up. Okay. So let's start here. How are you feeling now with Biden Harris's election and all of the shenanigans that have surrounded the election?
I do not feel any more relieved today than I did prior to the election, actually. I don't think that it's going to be as smooth of a transition as people are expecting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Trump, being the baby that he is, he's going to kick and scream and throw as many tantrums as he can. And also, I mean, he's just been a straight up bully and gangster. So who's to say he won't continue to bum rush his way through all of the checks and balances that he has for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So, I don't really feel at this point that things will necessarily go the way that we think it will. And even if it does, then what? That's kind of how I feel about it. What about you?
I'm kind of in the same place. I am, happy that Trump will be out, just simply because of all of the extra, just shenanigans that he had. Like it's just been something like out of the Twilight Zone, quite honestly. The amount of overt racism that he has displayed and that other people have displayed to follow suit has just been bananas. We're used to covert racism. That's not, that's nothing out of the norm. The overt racism is what has really just been crazy. And just everything that he's done. He's just a hateful, evil, vile, ignorant man. And so I'm glad he'll be gone. But I ain't super excited about Biden and Harris. I'm just not. Given their history, the crime bill, locking up Black folks, and, Harris's tap dancing, or really actually blatant statement of, she don't plan on doing nothing directly for Black folks. I mean, she said it in an interview, point blank.
Right.
She's not. So, what we excited about?
Right. I think, before people start getting all riled up in their chest, to acknowledge that Trump will be gone, that is a huge victory in its own right. Because like you said, the amount of racism, it's like we've walked backwards 50 plus years just in the behavior, as how we conduct ourselves as a society. So him being gone is a great thing. At the same time, for those that have been saying, well, we just have to get rid of Trump, it's the lesser of two evils. Well, the lesser of two evils is still evil. And so you can't lose sight of that. The lesser of two evils is still evil. So what exactly do we plan on doing to keep this auto repeat thing from happening? Because it seems like whenever we have a Democrat in office, we celebrate and then we forget, we forget about our plight. We forget about our suffering, and we get a whole lot of nothing for 4 years, or at least for 3 years. And then that's when all of the new promises start, coming together, because we're into the new election cycle.
Right. Yeah. So, I agree. And I think the bigger issue is, as Black folks, we're still in a place where we're comfortable taking crumbs, and we're still happy and excited about if you just acknowledge our plight, if you just acknowledge what we're saying the issue is. It's like when it was one event, I believe it was right after George Floyd, and there was a big event, and the young lady, I forget her name, that usually speaks out for BLM. She's one of the founders of BLM. And Jamie Foxx was there, and he gonna hunch over with his head down to the microphone. Well, we just have questions. No, we don't. We don't just have questions. Why are you speaking all with your head down and talk? No, we don't have questions. We have eyes. We have ears. We know what happened. We don't have any questions. We have demands.
Right.
And we're still in a place where it's like, well, we just have questions. And if you just hear us out. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sick of that approach as well. There were a lot of uploads of the Van Jones,
oh my God,
soliloquy, if you will, on CNN, and how poignant and powerful it was, and all of that. And I was actually quite agitated, because I'm so sick and tired of Black men being portrayed in this way, whether they do it to themselves or whether it's done through some other means. It's like, listen, say it with your chest. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not begging and pleading for you to understand our suffering. The writing is on the wall, and it's time to stand in your power, recognize who you are, and say, listen, this is what it is, and these are the consequences if this is not what it is. You're not going to keep exploiting our vote. You're not going to keep exploiting our bodies, our faces, our platforms, and all of this for your own benefit, and then walk away. We don't have to, we have a lot of power in this country, whether we realize it or not. We don't have to beg for a seat at the table. We don't need to be at that table at all. We can create our own, and so the thing is, listen, either you're going to deconstruct the nonsense that you've created to disenfranchise us, right? Or there's going to be consequences and ramifications. There's going to be some furniture moving up in this joint. But ain't no more crying, ain't no more groveling, ain't no more, I forgive you. People, it's like their kids are getting murdered, and they say that they forgive before somebody even offers an apology.
Thank you.
Nobody's offering you an apology.
Yeah.
But you're forgiving? Like,
yeah, it's too much. And when I saw that man cry on TV, I was just, the way NERDSoul is looking at me right now was like, yes. But just, I was like, what is you crying for? You, I was able, to look at my kids and tell them about a different America. Look, I don't know what you think just happened, but we have not overcome.
At
Okay?
all. No.
We did not overcome nothing.
Right.
Well, why are you having this moment where like Jesus just came and freed us all?
Well,
That didn't
because
happen.
yeah, it didn't. And my thing
No.
is this, like, and I know that, some people will get annoyed with me if I say anything about the Obama administration, but my thing is if as a people we are still experiencing the same issues
Mm-hmm.
after the Obama administration, what
Mm-hmm.
makes you think that an 80-year-old white man is going to be able to identify with our needs to the point that real deal change is going to happen in a meaningful way?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that, because of course, through the civil rights movement and all of that, there were all different nationalities of people that
Mm-hmm.
had to organize together in order for change.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't want this to be taken as, oh, she thinks because Biden is white, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not about because he's white. It's because he's 80 years old. Well, he'll be 78, I think, next week.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 78-year-old white man who has lived 78 years of a privileged existence
Mm-hmm.
and has been able to help orchestrate legislation throughout those years that has
Mm-hmm.
been harmful to us. And
Yep.
he's been able to turn a blind eye to what it is that we need. So now
Mm-hmm.
that there's civil unrest and we have had Trump in office and enough people are standing up and saying this is not acceptable, now we're supposed to believe that you have this awareness of what it is that we need as Black people, how
Mm-hmm.
it is, how real deal policy and reform to legislation can make a significant difference in our life, and you're willing to do it, not have
Right.
a meeting about a meeting about a meeting about a meeting, but real deal changes.
Exactly. Because I'm with you. I'm tired of the meetings about the possibility of a meetings to talk about a bill that might say you shouldn't. I mean, oh my gosh. It's, I'd rather you just be like, nah, we ain't gonna do it.
Right.
You know, it's a lot. And, then the other thing, a lot of Black folks are, for whatever reason, seeming to want to skip over the fact that Joe Biden will be president, not Kamala Harris. And, even with that, and some people gonna hate on this. I don't care. Um, she's a Black woman, but she's not African American. And let me tell you why that's important. She has not had the same experiences as African Americans in the United States. She does not have a mother, father, auntie, grandmother, grandfather who have had those same experiences of the United States in terms of the oppression of African Americans.
Hmm.
So her approach, her fire, her emotion, her empathy, her drive is going to be different.
Right.
It is different. When
Hmm.
she sat on that interview on the griot, and that young lady asked her very directly, how do you feel about reparations for Black people? And she tap danced and Savion Glover and gave all these other things. And in the very end said, but am I going to do something that Oh, how did she put it? Let me make sure I
Was
get
it
it
like
right.
specifically, is something specifically
Yes,
for Black
that
people?
specifically benefits Black people. No,
Hmm.
she said it.
Yeah, yeah, she said it.
And I beg to say that if she was an African American woman, it might be a different approach.
Yeah,
Because we want to be excited about her having this position. Did she make history? Yes, that's great.
hmm,
But how does that help my people?
right,
Because if she were a woman of African American descent in that position, I would be much more excited. I would be
yeah,
much more hopeful. Now,
hmm,
if she had the same um, career history, I don't know.
yeah,
Probably not.
yeah,
So it's a mixed bag, and I'm actually kind of just waiting for the other shoe to drop, quite honestly. I
yeah,
don't mean to be negative Nancy, but I'm just not expecting a whole lot from either one of them.
yeah,
I think what we can expect, in my opinion, realistically, is just simply to not have the shenanigans that we had from Trump.
right,
That's pretty much it.
right. And I don't see it as being a negative Nancy at all to say, hey, listen, this is this is what has actually happened. Um, and we need to be aware of that, because going forward, if we want something different, we have to acknowledge who it is that we're dealing with,
Hmm.
and what their motives have been in the past, which
Hmm.
could have a huge bearing on what their motives are now.
Yeah.
There's nothing negative about that. And so I, I wanted to add a little more context, because I can see how what is being said could be misconstrued into something else.
Hmm.
So I want to add something here. um we all have our individual experiences on this planet, right? As far as Kamala Harris goes, she is the daughter of immigrants.
Hmm.
That is what her experience is. Doesn't make her good or bad, one way or the other, for
Hmm.
being the daughter of immigrants.
Hmm.
With that being said, it would make sense to me if she went hard on immigration reform,
Hmm.
because that was her personal experience,
Right.
being the daughter of immigrants.
Hmm.
That makes sense to me. It makes sense to me that she would go hard for women's rights issues
Hmm.
because she's a woman.
Hmm.
That makes sense to me. Not to say that any of those things are bad things, because that could be a great thing for immigrants and that could be
Hmm.
a great thing for women, or vice versa, depending on what her agenda is. But either way it goes.
And quite honestly, those are her people. So my thing is, if you get into office and you don't help your people, what you in office for? Not to say you
Right,
only help your people, but if you don't take advantage of the fact that you are in a position to help your people, in addition to everything else, what you there for? Why do we care about the representation that you are? Why do we care that you represent being the first woman, the first person of color? See, that doesn't matter if you don't do anything with it.
right.
But go ahead.
That is 100% real. So, I like I said, I just wanted to add that for those who may be feeling uneasy or agitated by what's being said. We don't need to bash either one of them, in order to explain to you what their record has been,
Mm-hmm.
or what they've actually said that has been documented. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Like, there's no need to bash. Their record stands for itself. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe she said that multiple times when she was, during the presidential nomination.
Mm-hmm.
She was talking about her record, and her record speaks for itself. So, um, like I said, I understand that people feel a sense of relief when it comes to, Trump, because
Mm-hmm.
Trump versus anybody, of course, you're going to want to go towards whoever the anybody is, because
Yes.
Trump is just so horrible.
Right.
But now that we're in this position, and if everything transitions over the way that it has in the past, and we have, this new presidency with Biden and Harris, what now are we going to do? Like I said before, to keep from having this auto repeat, because we can't just have the celebration and be glad that Trump is gone and not have anything come out of this situation that's beneficial to us,
Yeah.
specifically to us. And we have to
Yeah.
keep in mind that the Biden Harris campaign website was very specific. It had little tabs for Black people, Latino people, Asian people. There was no lumped in people of color, um, you know, vague statements. They had specific agendas for different groups of people based on their needs. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to see that be carried out. And that doesn't mean, well, let's check off everybody else, every other group of color off of this list, and we'll just put the Black folks last.
Mm-hmm.
And so then at year 3, we could start talking about that again so that we can get their vote. Like, our vote has
Yeah.
power. Our vote has made a huge difference in the
Yeah.
outcome of this election. And so now it's time to organize in a meaningful way and get something out of our vote. I mean, that's basically like currency,
Yeah.
and we're throwing it away.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so true. And we are the only race, the only group of people that has been led to believe that we're not supposed to ask for anything for us specifically.
Mm-hmm.
We get all lives mattered in every arena:
Mm-hmm.
education, housing, justice, law. I mean, it's just crazy to me. Like, anytime we want to say anything specifically about Black folks, well, we can't just say just like all people. No, I don't want to hear about all.
Right.
All people are not being shot down in the streets in mass. That's Black folks
Right.
specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all
Yeah.
haven't, made it your business for decades to put all people in an area and in a one area, and then take away all of their resources
Mm-hmm.
and then punish them when they are pushed into crime. You haven't
Right.
done that to all people. You've done that to Black people.
Exactly.
So
100%.
I'm very irritated. I'm just irritated, and yeah, I have
That
no more
sigh
words.
said it all. That sigh said it all.
Yeah,
Well,
any Black folks jumping up and down in the streets having a party, go sit down,
yeah, yeah,
because I hate to say it, but all of you that's jumping up and down having a jubilee, it is not going to be long before your face sinks when Kamala Harris and Joe Biden start tap dancing all around, when BLM and whomever else come knocking and wanting a meeting and saying, all right, what we doing?
right. Yeah, I agree. It's funny to me, not funny how ha ha, but just interesting that whenever there is a rally to support a certain group of people, it is celebrated and accepted unless it's Black people.
Yep.
Right. So we can rally around the police department for, protecting and serving. Right. Even though they're murdering us, it's okay to rally around, and that's not to say that certain police officers shouldn't be celebrated, because not every police officer is bad. It's ridiculous that I have to say that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because that should be automatically understood.
Yeah.
But
not every Black person is being killed, but enough of them are for it to be a problem.
Exactly. And there are enough people, there are enough people on the police force that are turning a blind eye, even if they don't actively participate, because this is the culture of the police department, and it has been the culture of the police department. And to understand how the police force was derived in the first place,
Right.
and to then say there isn't racism in the police force is absolutely asinine.
Yeah.
That makes no sense at all.
No.
So, but to go back to what I was saying, you can rally behind the police department. You can rally behind essential workers through a pandemic. You can, support the survivors of 9/11 and all of the trauma that they experienced. You can rally around survivors of the Holocaust, Pearl Harbor, you name it. All of these groups, it's okay to celebrate organizing of groups that have gone through, whether it's a real deal traumatic experience like the Holocaust, or whether it's this kind of like implied threat, like with the police department. You know what I mean? The reality is the police were never in jeopardy or real deal threat of Black folks coming and harming them.
No.
You know what I mean? Through this whole thing. If that was the case, then, when the Rodney King beating happened,
Yeah.
I mean, we have a history in this country of us being publicly slaughtered, and there not being the consequence that they are afraid of. Because if they weren't afraid of us treating them the way that they treated us, then they would have no reason to continue to put their boot on our neck.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? So it's only when Black folks organize that it becomes a problem. And the narrative always changes. So it can't be about police brutality. It can't be about redlining. It can't be about miseducation of our children. None of those things. It becomes rioters, looters, dehumanizing us.
Yeah, because we just want to come out and riot and loot because today is Tuesday.
Right.
You know what I mean? we
right.
Now, not to even mention that we're not the ones out there rioting and looting. That's been proven. Right. Okay.
Right.
But if you want to roll with that, let's roll with that. Let's say we were. Why?
Right.
When we'll talk about the why, we want to jump all over top of the why and go to, that one thing.
Right. And we can have armed militias that go to government offices that can have kidnapping attempps.
Girl.
On the governor, mayor, governor?
I don't know, because we haven't heard much else about it.
Didn't it just magically go away?
Bippity boppity boo.
Exactly. That was kind of like, how Dylan Roof got his cheeseburger and faded off into the distance after he slaughtered all of our people in that church. But anyway, I digress. I'm trying so hard.
It's so much that you can't even finish making one point because you get caught up in the other things you have to mention on the way to the point.
It is so true. One thing that has always tripped me out about the police brutality conversation is, for those who don't believe that the police force has racists in it,
Mm.
I would ask you this, okay? A pedophile loves being around children so that they can exploit said child, right? So with that being said, the likelihood of a pedophile becoming a teacher, a daycare worker, maybe a medical professional of some sort in the pediatric field, the likelihood of that, to me, becomes higher because they want to be able to have access to a certain group of people without suspicion, right? Like all of these gymnastics coaches now, where they found all of these gymnastic coaches have been molesting all of these little girls and stuff like that. In the same way, if you are a racist, if you are a part of some type of white supremacist group, wouldn't you try to put yourself in a position of authority to be able to murder and brutalize this group of people under the radar or with proper justification? Why wouldn't you join the police force?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why wouldn't you become an EMT so that you can intentionally withhold medical treatment? Okay. All of these things have happened. All of these things are documented. There was a guy who was on trial because I think there was some kind of secret recording or something where he was admitting to things like giving adult-sized needles to little black babies to intentionally harm them. Like, the depth of how sick this well is beyond any sane person's comprehension.
Yeah.
And so we have to get out of our feelings about what we believe is the America that we live in because that's what we want, and actually address the America that we're in. Because pre-Trump, pre-Obama, the same nonsense about racism being over and all of this kind of stuff was still part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Yet the election shows that either half of America is racist or half of America is okay with ignoring racism in order for their own personal benefit.
And I'll
That's
say
what
it's
this
a mix
election
of
has
both.
shown.
Yeah.
Say that again.
I said not say it's a mix of both.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I want to piggyback on the example you just gave about the pedophiles in the police department. So, of course, for some time now, laws have been put into place. Very, I would say, stringent laws have been put into place in terms of pedophiles to prevent pedophiles from getting jobs as teachers and as coaches and whatever else. Once they're discovered as being pedophiles, they've been charged, whatever else, that follows them to prevent them from becoming teachers, coaches, mentors, whatever else. They even have to register as a pedophile. Well, once officers have been found to be racist or participate in racist activity, if you will, why doesn't the same apply? Why can they be fired from one police department for behavior, however they want to put it nicely, for murdering someone or for shooting someone or for beating someone, and then get hired by another police department in another state? Where do you do that at?
Exactly.
Besides the United States.
Right. But it's because there is more value placed in the institution than in those that are being violated. So, the institution of the police force is more valuable than the Black people that are being murdered, in the same way that the institution of the Catholic diocese is more important than all of the children that were being violated. And that's how they were able to, play ring around the rosy with the parishioners so that they would just be shuffled off somewhere else so that they could violate more children. The same thing is happening with the police department.
Yeah.
You know, they have these cases where they acted in ways that are totally unacceptable. And as opposed to them basically being blackballed from ever being a police officer again, they just find a job somewhere else so that they can continue the violation. How is that okay?
Because Black.
There you go.
Any other case, it's not okay.
Right.
But because Black, insert Black person, everything else rolls away.
Yeah.
And, you know, because this is the case, because this has been the case for decades at the least, we have no reason to be in nobody's street playing cool in the game, celebrating good times. You know?
Yeah.
Sit down. You know, it's ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. We are no further than we were before. Trump being out of office doesn't put Black folks any further into where. No police officer has been additionally arrested, charged, prosecuted for any Black person that had already been killed before Trump was in office or while Trump has been in office.
Right.
That didn't happen. It's not like, oh, Trump got voted out. I guess we got to go pick up those offices now. No. No.
Right. At best, it's just a matter of not having the president dog whistling.
Right.
At best. That's the starting point. But we actually have gone backward through this administration. We have gone backward. And so for us to even be in a position to reap any benefits from this administration, we have to first bring society forward 50 years because of all of the Trump shenanigans.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, you know, and like you said, it's not to come from a place of negativity. It's to come from a place of awareness, because if you don't understand your position, if you don't understand the key players, then, you know, how are you going to win the war? You know what I mean? Like that's the basic fundamentals of war. But you're just gonna run off and start fighting the air. You don't know who your opponents are. You don't know what the strategy is. Like you just what? Like, come on.
Yeah.
We have to stop playing around. We have to stop accepting the crumbs, like you said. We have to stop believing that these little trinkets and the positioning of certain figureheads that look like us and all of that is meaningful change, because it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. Having a woman of color as the vice president in 2020 does not say something great about America. It's 2020.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? This is something that should have happened a long time ago. But we're celebrating something that should have already happened. Yep. You know, that to me is like when folks be like, you know, I'm grown. I got a job. I got a house. I got a car. I pay my own bills. Well,
you're supposed to.
Grown. That's what grown folks do. So what, you want a prize? You want a ribbon? You know what I mean? Like, are you the winning cow at the state fair?
Exactly.
You know what your prize around your neck?
That check. You know what your prize is? The lights being on after you pay that bill. Your prize is having some bologna and cheese to slap on that bread every day. That's your prize. Congratulations. I totally agree. It's, oh my Lord, Father.
And like, it's not to diminish what Kamala Harris has achieved, whether we agree with her record or not. She has been successful in her field. You know what I mean? And so it's not to
however
diminish
that success came.
Exactly. So it's not to diminish or make light of. It's just like we are so accepting and complacent about things that
don't benefit us.
Right. I mean, I'm just
Yeah,
it's
I
a
know.
lot.
We're
It's a
both
lot.
going to lose our words on a podcast. But it's just that
ain't
real.
no ways tired.
It's like, but I am. So sad. Yeah. It's oh my God.
Oh Lord.
So
yeah.
So let's move forward because we this is hard.
We went all the way down that rabbit hole, didn't we?
And killed the rabbit. But so let's take a little break. Take a little break here.
Okay. So, as you all may have heard last week, we have a new segment in our podcast. And now it's time for this week's featured Black owned business in that segment called In Your Black Business. Today we are highlighting Noel Fashions. That's right, Noel Fashions. So, Noel Fashions is an online women's boutique. They have sizes extra small through 4X. They cater to all types of women with trendy fashion for affordable prices. Once again, that is Noel Fashions. They can be found on Instagram and Facebook at Noel Fashions _. That's NOELLE Fashions. And on their website at www.noelfashions.com. Check them out.
Awesome. So there was a question that you had posed. You said, are we headed toward another civil war with Trump supporters refusing to accept the results, and has too much damage been done socially with the racial climate under the Trump administration to recover? I don't know about a civil war per se. I honestly really expected more foolishness. Because I wasn't sure if Trump was going to lose or win. But I expected more foolishness at this point with him losing. I expected people, to be out in the streets like Yosemite Sam, just I did. I just expected, to see, butt cracks and halter tops and red hair. I'm sorry, but that's just what I, in rusty pickup trucks. Right. I expected a lot of that, and so I'm a little surprised that hasn't happened. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it may get closer to that once there is a final, because I know we're not there, and I know they're hoping. Some of them are hoping that, I don't know, bippity boppity boo, the numbers will change so dramatically. I don't know, Chuck.
Right.
So, with that being said, without there being that really dramatic response that I was looking for, I really don't know if we're headed towards a civil war per se. And also, I don't know, because I know that Trump is going to do some foolish stuff during this time that he is still in office. Mm-hmm. I put nothing past him. Right. I put nothing past him in terms of what he'll do just to be nasty and act like, and I don't even want to say a 2-year-old because that's an insult to my child.
Right.
I'm just saying. To act like, oh, an infant. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
so I guess that really depends because he really can do some damage if he really wants to while
Yeah.
he's still there. That's yet to be seen. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, he definitely has a way of rallying uh, his base,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not to take the responsibility off of individuals to behave in a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
because we all have control of ourselves, regardless of what uh, we are provoked to do.
Yeah.
We are still in control of our own bodies. Um, However, I think that um, some people will feel justified in criminal behavior
Mm-hmm.
if, or I should say, when the final declaration is made for the presidency. And I don't think that Trump will do anything to make that transition easier. I think that
Oh
he will
yeah.
continue to try to provoke people into action, into hysteria, to behave that way.
Mm-hmm.
So we really have to be on guard at all times,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of goes back to the question of um, recovering socially from all that
Mm-hmm.
has happened, because the way that I feel right now, you know, I'm the only female in my house. I have sons and a husband. Every
Mm-hmm.
time that they leave out of the house, I am so worried
Yeah.
about what potentially could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me think of um, the days of old, prior to the civil rights movement, and throughout that period of time, how
Mm-hmm.
mothers and wives must have been on pins and needles
I tell you.
whenever their children or their husbands would leave the house. That's kind of the level of angst that I feel at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And even though prior to this I had discomfort and fear, and had the conversations with my sons about being cautious,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't to this level.
Yeah.
It wasn't to this level.
Yeah.
And so that's not to say that anybody should live in fear or anything like that. It's just about awareness that there has been a significant change
Mm-hmm.
in the overall tone
Yeah.
in this
Absolutely.
country, and anything could pop off at any given moment.
Absolutely. Because, as far as with, police officers and what's been happening is, a simple traffic stop goes from 0 to 100, in no time. A black man gets stopped for speeding or for a taillight being out or something extremely trivial.
Mhm.
And fast forward, he's lost his life. It's
Right,
like, what just happened here?
right.
And I'm with you. When my husband goes out to pick up some food or go get gas or whatever, if I'm kind of sitting around, it's like, well, okay, he's been gone a little while. And I kind of backtrack, what time did he leave? What time of day is it? Is traffic heavy or is it light? He should be back by now. And I find myself going to look out the window,
Yeah,
just anticipating every car. And it makes me angry in the middle of it doing it
right.
because
Yeah,
I should not feel this way because all he did was run to Burger King.
right.
And we're in Los Angeles and we live in West LA. And this would probably be considered, I don't really know how to put it, but this is a whiter area.
Hmm.
And so this isn't even an area where a lot of the activity that everyone hears about in LA in terms of the cops happens. but it doesn't matter. He is a black man. How do I know he won't be targeted because he is a black man in West LA? I don't know. It's up in the air at this point. We have no idea. There's no rhyme or reason behind what's been happening. And this thing crosses, class lines in terms of us as black people being attacked. We can say from every walk of life, and every black person can be like, look, you can get it too.
Right.
You really can get it too, unless you are, well, I was gonna say unless you're a celebrity, but that's
Even
been debunked.
celebrities. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That I forgot what sport he played, but that gentleman who was, I think, tackled outside of a building because he was mistaken.
Yeah. I think he was a football player.
Okay.
I think if we're talking about the same, it was in a parking lot.
I don't remember. I thought it was someone that was tackled outside of a building. A cop saw him standing there and just like, oh, that's him, and tackled him. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's scary, and I know that uh the the podcast, this particular episode is about the Biden Harris administration, and we've spent a lot of time on police brutality and other issues, but it's like you have to understand how closely these things are connected, because we have to be willing to make some demands. We have to be willing to come together organized in some fashion to say, hey, listen, this is what we need. And I don't care who you're running against next time. You will not get my vote if you're not willing to tackle these particular things. Like,
and I don't
we
mean have a
need
meeting
these.
about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, there were promises made specifically to Black America for this administration, and we need to make sure that those promises aren't just empty promises.
Yeah.
And not just blindly give our vote, because we do need to be thinking about the next election cycle. I know that they're not officially in yet, but every step that they take through these 4 years, we need to be thinking about the next election cycle.
Yeah.
So, one of the thoughts that I had, I was like, okay, so now that this election is over, does that somehow make Ice Cube's contract with Black America more legitimate for those who dismissed it from the jump because of who he is and who he went to? Or is that a good starting point just as far as the agenda itself? Is that a good starting point for us to go to this administration with? Or is there somebody else who is the quote unquote appointed person, the appointed Black spokesperson that's supposed to go to this administration on our behalf?
I don't know, quite honestly, because I haven't, again, in this time, I haven't seen anyone else besides Ice Cube come forward and say, this is what we have and this is what we're going to present to whomever wins this election. I know some Black folks felt a certain way about going to Trump at all, but it's like, if he's the one in charge, no matter how much you hate him, what you gonna do? You just gonna sit and pout for the next 4 years? But at any rate, I feel like whoever has a thought out, well planned, specific, list of demands, needs, whatever, let them go forward. I don't care who it is. Let it be Ice Cube. Let it be anyone from BLM. I don't care. And we don't have time for worrying about the messenger and how you feel about the messenger. If they have a message that works for us, so be it. You ain't got to like him. What difference does that make?
Right.
People mad talking about, well, he's rich. He don't have the same worries we do. Well, if that's the case, then why would he be trying to stand up for issues that don't, quote, affect him?
Right.
How is that a negative? You know?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that, Ice Cube does, try again in terms of approaching the Biden party. But there was someone from the Biden camp that has now come out and said, oh, well, we didn't tell him that we would meet with him after the election if we win. We never told him that. We told him that it wasn't detailed enough. So I guess Ice Cube just lied for the sake of lying. So.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Like, how many details do you need to know about the fact that police brutality is real and that we need protection from that? How much detail do you need to know that through the whole No Child Left Behind shenanigans that I think the Bush administration, Baby Bush, not Daddy Bush, I think it was Baby Bush that orchestrated that now, education is based on zip code, and our children that are in um, lower income areas are not getting the proper education. Like, how much detail do you need for that?
Right.
That to understand that there is an imbalance that needs to be repaired.
Right. Because truth be told, as politicians, you have more detail than he does. But you want
Exactly.
him to dig and come up with all this stuff to present to you. Like, you want him to do the whole thing? Does he get your check?
And it's another way to further delay doing anything for us.
Right.
And that's why it is so important, like I said, for us to continuously have the next election cycle in our minds, in the forefront of our minds, because we do not have the luxury of time to continue to wait for some benevolent politician to say, you know what, those there black folks have suffered long enough. Let me see what I can reach into my handy dandy bag and pull out for them. Like,
Yeah.
no, we deserve so much more than that.
So much
And
more.
yeah, if we knew who we were or who we are, then we wouldn't accept that nonsense. There's no
Yeah.
way.
It's
Yeah.
it's a lot. Um and you had also asked, how can black people get the value of their vote out of this administration? Who is going to present the black agenda? We kind of talked about that. I don't get it. Just some back. Um, is there an appointed person or group? So yeah, how can we get black people? How can black people get the value of their vote? My first thought off the top is we really should have thought about that before voting, but we never do.
Yeah.
I don't recall us ever really holding a candidate to the fire, in terms of us. You kind of sit back and listen to what they choose to say, what they have to say on their different platforms and in debates and whatnot, um, and make a decision based on what information they choose to present, and the powers that be, being whoever puts these debates and whatnot together, what they choose to present. Then we make our decisions based on that. There is no push, where our groups and representatives go to these candidates and say, I'm from BLM, I'm from NAACP or whatever else. And, what do you plan on doing about this issue that affects Black people directly? That, that doesn't happen. But anyway, I really think so far the most effective way to get value of our vote has been by protests and demonstrations. Since George Floyd has passed, that any changes that have done, any arrests, I think in a couple of states, chokeholds have been legally banned, which they were in the first place, but I like, and it was already on the books. But anyway, he
Oh,
doesn't.
so now we really ain't gonna do what we said we wasn't gonna do in
Right.
the first place.
Yeah. But anyway, any arrests and charges that have been made have been a result of protests. So people can say get out and vote, but it's like, but we don't vote no more for years. So we have to have an alternative. Nobody had to vote at all for, even though much else hasn't happened, but these arrests of these cops, charges being made, them being fired again, which is like, eh, you know, but again, that was done as little as it is because of protests. So I say we continue to demonstrate and protest. Those that have taken lead and that are in power, BLM. I know BLM keeps going strong, even when we're not seeing them on TV. They're constantly having events. They're constantly having demonstrations and protests. They're constantly organizing. And, I think, that really is the way. They are constantly making connections with those that are in power and getting a seat at the tables they need to, to talk to people who can actually present bills, back bills, and that kind of thing. And to me, that's the key. We can't just sit back and be like, well, we need to make sure we vote in 2 years or vote in 4 years. No, no, that's not where, in my opinion, some people, of course, will jump up and down and scream because I said that. But in my opinion, that's not where the real change happens. Martin Luther King didn't say, well, I guess if we vote, we'll be free. No. So, okay.
Yeah,
That's my
it's
opinion.
exhausting.
It's very exhausting.
Yeah,
It's very exhausting. I mean, we voted Obama in.
right.
And what happened for black folks?
I mean, we were able to say that there was a black president,
Mm.
but I have not heard one black person say to me specifically, this is how I benefited, whether it's through the economy or whatever. Like his administration specifically helped me in this particular way.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't heard it.
Nope.
You know what I mean? And once again, that's not to diminish the accomplishments that he has made. It's to acknowledge what my experience has been and the
Mm-hmm.
people that I've had these conversations with, because it's so, you can't, today people are just so sensitive. You can't tell the truth about a person without it somehow being a personal attack.
Yeah.
And we can say, generally speaking, when Obama got into office, the state of the deficit was trash
Mm-hmm.
due to the Bush administration.
Mm-hmm.
And that once it was said and done, as a country,
Mm-hmm.
we were in a better spot. But I'm
Absolutely.
talking about individual lives.
Mm-hmm.
How have you individually been impacted
Mm-hmm.
by each administration? It's not just to pick on the Obama administration, but I will say, for me, for the Obama administration, one thing that was punitive for me was that was the very first time that I was ever without health insurance.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because of all of the ins and outs that happened through trying to get Obamacare
Yeah.
um, put into place.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I didn't take that as, um, well, now Obama won't get my vote again,
Mm-hmm.
because I believe in, the benefit of all.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thing was, okay, if I have to take this hit personally for the greater good long
Yeah.
term, then that's what it is. But that's
Yeah.
the type of person that I am. Not
Yeah.
everybody thinks that way.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, okay, I'm willing to give him my vote again, even though this negatively impacted me, because I liked the direction that he was headed as far as universal health care was concerned. I thought that was an important issue to me. So you can say, hey, I was negatively impacted by this administration and still support them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Because I know for me, those penalties, of not having insurance was a beast, an absolute beast. But I honestly, for me, I chalked it up to, I'm pretty sure Obama didn't say, I think we should put in these penalties, because that was counter to what his intentions were. I'm pretty sure that was something that had to be added as compromise in order to get it passed. I understand that there is give and take. I don't like it, but I'm pretty positive that wasn't his idea. It's just counterintuitive to what he was trying to do. But those penalties were harsh, and they were a beast.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they're gone.
Yes.
That is probably the only thing I can say that Trump did that was decent, is he got rid of those penalties. I don't know why he did it. Don't care. But I'm sure it wasn't out of the goodness of his heart.
Absolutely not. He does not have a heart or goodness. Yeah, it's unfortunate that in the wake of being done with a Trump America, that we can't be elated at what is before us.
Yeah.
You and I have had conversations offline about the other candidates during the primaries, and who we would have preferred and what would have kind of gotten us energized. And we reverted back to the pre-Obama way. You know what I mean? We're accustomed to our candidates looking a certain way, and they have looked a certain way throughout history. And that was the old trusty, Yeah. So we got our old trusty osteoporosis candidate, and he is now the president-elect. And I hate to even say hope, because I think hope is the biggest hustle, but we just got to do the best.
It's a whole lot of we'll see, and we need to keep pushing. We need to get back to business as usual now that we can put this Trump foolishness behind us. There will still be some shenanigans from him. I know that for sure. However, we know that there's someone else that will be in office, but it has to be business as usual. We have to still hold Biden and Harris to the fire. However excited some of us really are about her and want to cheese and do your research on her and hold her accountable. You think she's so great? It won't be hard. You think he's so great? It won't be hard, right?
Right.
We'll see.
Truth is true.
All right, so let's give another shout out real quick to Noelle Fashions once again. She is our business highlight today in Your Black Business. So again, Noelle Fashions is an online women's boutique. They have extra small to 4X items, catering to all types of women with trendy fashions for affordable prices. Once again, that is Noelle Fashions. They can be found on Instagram and Facebook at Noelle Fashions _ NOELLE Fashions _ and their website is www.noellefashions.com. All right, and we want to give NERDSoul a shout out once again. Tell him thank you for allowing us to be on his platform. And check us out Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Thank you so much for listening. We hope that you will like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Absolutely.
All right. So bye, y'all.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.